Good morning.
In 1969, in Pass Christian, Mississippi, a group of people were preparing to have a hurricane party in the face of a storm named Camille. Police Chief Jerry Peralta, let me try this one. Here I go with the names again. Jerry Peralta pulled up sometime after dark at the posh Richelieu Apartments, facing the beach less than 250 feet from the surf. Now, the apartments were directly in the line of danger. A man with a drink in his hand came out to the second-floor balcony and waved at the police chief. Peralta yelled up, "You all need to clear out of here as quickly as you can. The storm's getting worse." But as other party participants joined the man on the balcony, they just laughed at Peralta's order to leave. "This is my land," one of them yelled back. "If you want me off, you'll have to arrest me." Peralta didn't arrest anyone, but he wasn't able to persuade them to leave either. He wrote down the names of the next of kin of the 20 or so people who gathered there to party through the storm. They laughed as he took their names. They had been warned, but they had no intention of leaving. It was 10:15 p.m. when the front wall of the storm came ashore. Scientists clocked Camille's wind speed at more than 250 miles per hour, the strongest on record and much, much stronger than Hurricane Katrina that did so much destruction to the Gulf Coast a few summers back. Raindrops hit with the force of bullets, and waves off the Gulf Coast crested between 22 and 28 feet high. News reports later showed that the worst damage came at the little settlement of motels, go-go bars, and gambling houses known as Pass Christian, where some 20 people were killed at a hurricane party in the Richelieu Apartments. Nothing was left of that three-story structure but the foundation. Of the 24 people in the building, only one survived. Storms come. Sometimes they come suddenly and violently. Sometimes they tear your world apart. Jesus and his disciples were crossing the Sea of Galilee. Suddenly a furious squall came up and the waves broke over the boat, nearly swamping it. Now Jesus was asleep in the stern on a cushion. The disciples woke him and said, "Teacher, don't you care if we drown?" Jesus got up, rebuked the wind, and said to the waves, "Quiet, be still." Then the wind died down, and it was completely calm. And he said to the disciples, "Why are you so afraid? Do you still have no faith?" They were now more terrified and asked each other, "Who is this? Even the wind and the waves obey him." Storms come. They may not come in the form of a sudden furious squall or even a hurricane. Sometimes they come in the form of a phone call from a doctor confirming a diagnosis, or from a police officer telling you of an automobile accident. Storms come in many forms. A note from a spouse saying they're leaving. A pink slip from an employer. Storms come, just as they came to those disciples on the Sea of Galilee. Now here's what's frustrating. Sometimes when storms come, it seems as if God is asleep. "Teacher, don't you care if we drown?" asked his terrified disciples. And sometimes when we are going through a crisis, it does seem that either God doesn't hear or doesn't care. You may remember Robert Browning's famous poem, "The Larks on the Wing, the Snails on the Thorn, God's in his heaven, all's right with the world." Browning wrote these words in the mid-19th century, an era of boundless optimism. But after 2 world wars, the Holocaust, and numerous genocides, as well as the terrible specter of international terrorism, few people would now dare to say, "All's right with the world." Worse, as author Philip Yancey notes, God seems to stay in his heaven despite all that's wrong with the world. Why doesn't he do something? A Romanian man filed a lawsuit last fall against God for allegedly fouling up his life. The suit states that the man was promised a good life in return for various goods and prayers. and that the 20-year sentence he's currently serving in a Romanian jail represents a clear breach of contract. That's absurd, of course, but have you ever felt like suing God? Be honest now. Sometimes terrifying storms come up in our lives and we turn to God and all we find is an awful silence. And we cry out with those disciples of old, "Teacher, don't you care if we drown?" In our text today, Christ does stir from his slumber. He rebukes the wind and says to the waves, "Quiet, be still." When the wind dies down and is completely calm, he turns to his disciples and asks, "Why are you so afraid? Do you still have no faith?" Now, I believe this is the crux of the lesson. We know that storms come. We believe that Christ has the power to calm the storms. Why are we afraid to trust God's promises? Christ knew that his disciples were human beings given to fear. He knew that they were still growing in their faith. His retort to them sounds harsh, but it is the harshness of a coach who wants his players to get the routine down precisely so that when they are tested, they will be able to respond as they were coached. Jesus wants to help us with our fear. For a greater tragedy than the storms that come in our lives is the inadequacy of the response that we make to those storms. Let me make some brief suggestions about how we can cope with life in the midst of life's storms. First of all, prepare for them. That makes sense, doesn't it? If we know storms are going to come, don't you think we ought to prepare for them? Now, a TV news camera crew was on assignment in southern Florida filming the widespread destruction from Hurricane Andrew. In one scene, amid the devastation and debris, stood one house on its foundation. The owner was clearing up the yard when a reporter approached him. "Sir, why is your house the only one in the entire neighborhood that is standing?" asked the reporter. "How did you manage to escape the severe damage of the hurricane?" "I built this house myself," the man replied. "I also built it according to the Florida State Building Code. When the code called for 2x6 roof trusses, I used 2x6 roof trusses. I was told that a house built according to code could withstand a hurricane. I did, and it did. I suppose no one else around here followed the code." Now that man was prepared. But suppose that storm had been cancer, or the loss of a child, or some great tragedy. How could he have prepared? There are many ways. He could have made sure his relationships were strong. One more time. He could have made sure his relationships were strong. His family relationships, his relationships with his friends. It helps when you're going through a storm to have others there with you. You may not be blessed with a family, but you can build your relationships here in the church so that you will have people who will serve as your support group. Ask someone who has gone through the storm of an illness or the loss of a loved one whether close relationships made a difference, because they do. He could have also prepared himself for the storm physically, mentally, spiritually. For example, did your general health make a difference in a storm?
Yes.
How well you've taken care of yourself can make a significant difference when you are struck by a catastrophic illness. We don't talk about this much at church, but maybe we ought to. A person undergoing surgery or chemotherapy or radiation will generally do better if his or her overall health is good. Being in good physical condition is also a good way to deal with depression that inevitably comes with a terrible loss. Prepare for life's storms by keeping yourself fit. Don't wait until the storm comes. Mentally and spiritually, we prepare ourselves by building our lives on the rock. There comes a time in our lives when we decide what we believe and how we will live. I will live according to God's building code, we decide. I will live a life of quality, trusting God's promises. There are other ways to live that might bring us more sensual gratification and less sacrifice. But we believe that our lives have purpose and meaning, that a loving Creator has intended our lives for something more than mere animal satisfactions. And so we seek to live our lives according to God's code so that when the storm of life comes, we respond reflexively with faith and not fear. Just as a well-trained athlete responds in the contest as he or she has been coached. This is not to say that we cease being human. We still may go through all the steps associated with grief and loss, denial, anger, rejection, guilt, bargaining, depression, and or confusion, and acceptance. But we go through the process without being overwhelmed. And then eventually, when the storm has run its course, as all storms do, we see how God has guided us through. We had despaired at times that we could possibly make it, but we do make it, and we give God the glory. And if we are wise, we reflect on the lesson we have learned from this experience, for this is the purpose of storms, to produce growth. Robert A. Schuller tells about a farmer in Washington who was especially proud of the apples he produced every year, and with good reason. His farm was at a high elevation, and the cold winds that came through there made his apples especially crisp and flavorful. Every year, after he harvested his crop, he would polish those apples until they virtually shined. Then he would put them into beautiful packages to show them off. These weren't your ordinary run-of-the-mill apples, but the kind that made beautiful gifts to send to loved ones for Thanksgiving and Christmas, the very expensive ones. As word of his marvelous apples spread, it got to the point where he was inundated with orders even before he had harvested the fruit. One year, just before harvest time, a severe hailstorm pummeled his property. When it was all over, there wasn't a single apple without blemishes on its skin. There was nothing wrong with the apples. They just didn't look as pretty as they usually did, and the farmer was afraid that the people who had ordered them might be disappointed and ask for their money back. Then he had an idea. He took all of the apples with the little blemishes on the outside and wrapped every one of them the same way he did every year. He put them in the same kind of packages. Then he added a note. It read, Notice, these high-quality apples this year represents the finest crop. You can see the blemishes caused by the hailstorm, which created the extreme cold, giving the ultimate flavor and ultimate crispness to these apples. Well, not a single order was returned. In fact, just the opposite happened. The following year, when his orders started coming in, he had many requests from people who wanted to make sure they got the apples with the blemishes this year, too. That's the way it works for people of faith. We don't escape the blemishes. We wear them proudly. For we could not be who we are today without the growth that those blemishes brought with them. Storms come. Some of you are young. It seems like you will live forever. That's wonderful. But if you're smart, and you are, you will prepare yourself for that time when life sends us the unexpected squall. Prepare yourself by building strong relationships. Prepare yourself by keeping yourself fit, physically, mentally, and spiritually. Decide to build your life on the rock of faith. Rabbi Jan Goldstein recalls one unexpected benefit from the 1994 earthquake that rocked Los Angeles. The disaster caused massive power outages all over the city, but for the first time in years, Goldstein saw his neighbor wander outside at night and gaze at the stars. See, usually the artificial lights that powered the city blocked out most views of the night sky. In Goldstein's experience, few Angelinos had the opportunity before this earthquake and the subsequent power outage to appreciate the beauty of the stars. I wonder if something like that didn't happen that night to the disciples. After the Master had calmed the storm, there was a great calm. But the wind from the storm had cleared the air in a wonderful way, and as they gazed at the heavens, they could see the stars as they had never seen them before. And they reflected on this man who had power over wind and the waves. And they learned the meaning the meaning of a life built on God. Amen.
Amen.
Be seated, please, for the announcements.
Alright, so next week's service, back to 3.
Yeah, guys. Obviously, we're all kind of discombobulated today because this was because of rough service again. But I apologize, and hopefully next week will be a little better when we go back to our normal time at 3:00. When the regular people are awake in the world, because this 11 o'clock start time just about killed all of us, I think. So that's okay. 3:00 next week. 3:00 next week. So everybody be here. 3:00 next week, and we're going to try and do that from now on. I'm sorry about.
I see better at 11, but anyway.
You seen better at 11?
I think
That's
moving on.
okay.
Confession after service today. Okay. Hey, check out our podcast. Have y'all heard about this podcast we've got? We've got this thing called the podcast. We have been picked up by quite a few stations here. We're on, wait till you hear this last one. We are on Pocket Casts, Apple Podcasts, Castbox, Breaker, Anchor, Radio Public, and guess what?
Google.
We just got picked up by Google Podcasts.
We're actually one of their first.
We're one of the first groups of anybody in the world to be on Google Podcasts.
You mean organization?
Anything,
Church?
anything at all. We were there for their opening day. We were on Google Podcasts.
For the first time? Like,
First time.
Oh my God.
We are there.
They just launched the official Google Podcast.
Google Podcast just opened a couple of days ago.
And one of your station was one of their choices.
Google Podcast was opened a couple of days ago, and they chose us to be
Wow.
in their inaugural opening.
Well,
So we are there. Google
That's
Podcast,
awesome.
guys. I'm very
Good
proud,
timing.
and
Good
thank you all
timing.
for helping us support that, because that's a huge thing for us. I mean, it's another way to get the word
I
out.
mean, you have no idea. Like,
It's
that's
another way
the
for us to get the word out. There it is.
Search.
There it is, right there. Google Podcast, right there.
That's awesome.
I'm very proud of that. And we have another one. What was the one today that I said we had? Radio FM. We're also on Radio FM now, also. So that's what, 8? Is that 8 of us now? Eight stations now. Guys, that's great. That's great. Okay.
That's what I'm talking about.
No excuse not to hear us if you're not here, right?
We are excited to let you know that we have developed an app for the ministry and we want you to try it out. Go to the iTunes or Android App Store and download the My Church app. From there, enter in our name and then give it a try. There are so many great features to help us better connect throughout the week. Be sure to look at the content integration, the Bible and journal features, along with all of our social media. Give it a try today and see how easy it is to stay connected.
Okay, so we have an app. Okay, we've got stuff all over the place. We've got the podcast, we've got the YouTube, we've got the different things that we offer here at the church, announcements and whatnot. This is a way to keep in touch with all of it in one place. Go and follow the directions and download the app and search for Dallas Universal Life Church. It's really kind of cool. And you can take sermon notes. If you want to do a Bible study, it's got Bible studies in there. You can do day by day. You can do week by week. You can do notes. You can do sermon notes. Please don't take sermon notes during service because we all have our telephones and electronic devices off at the moment, I'm sure, because we've discussed that many, many times and in length, and it's obviously just not the thing to do during service. So, that is it. Pray at DallasULC.com. Pray at DallasULC.com. If you have any prayer requests, pray at DallasULC.com. You can remain anonymous or give your name. We will either pray for you during our weekly prayers if you ask for us to, or we will actually add it to the prayer list for the services for the next week. Also, what is the other one? Feedback. Feedback at DallasULC.com. This is especially good for all of the people in podcast land and for our YouTube subscribers. Feedback at DallasULC.com. Let us know who you are. Let us know you're out there listening. We see that you're listening. We see the numbers. Let us know what you think. Have a voice. What do you like? What do you not like? What do you want to keep? What do you want to get rid of? And we say that every week. Come tell us. Tell us. Yes, Gavin.
Can we say a quick little prayer real quick?
What's up?
I just wanted to do a prayer for everyone for the Lord to help us to be more understanding than understood and to help us to better serve our fellow man.
Absolutely. And that's we prayed for that quite a bit today. That was in fact our final prayer said that. But certainly, Gavin, we pray that let's bow our heads for just a moment with Gavin, and we'll do this. Lord Father, we come to you today with humble hearts. We ask that you help us to understand that there are needs in the world, and that we have the ability to fill so many of those needs from the gifts that you have given us. Help us to understand our fellow man, and help us to be there and to offer our gifts freely so that we may be a betterment to our community and to our world. We ask this through Christ our Lord.
Amen.
Okay.
Amen.
What did you like? What did you not like? What do you want to keep? What do you want to get rid of? And what I mean by that is, I want this service to be yours. All of it. This entire church is yours. So if you don't like something, you need to tell me, and we need to work on it. If you like something and you want to praise it, hey, let me know so we can keep it. Okay? So that's what I'm saying by that. We're not a stagnant church like some of the other churches out there where it's the same thing for decades and centuries and la-di-da-di-da, and they keep regurgitating the same prayers over and over and over, and they don't even know what they're saying. We're not going to do that. We want to know what we're praying to God and what we're saying,
It
right?
just becomes automatic.
So, when the storm comes, when those storms of life come, those are tough. And a lot of times we don't know what to do. We don't know where to go. We don't know it's scary as hell. You know, death of a family member. You know, my mother passed away. It blew me away. You know, I didn't know she was going to die. I talked to her that day, and the next day I find out she's dead. How the hell do you handle that? You know, it's pretty tough. Car accidents. You know, even the smaller things. You know,
It can be very traumatic.
you lose a job, and you didn't see it coming. It just happened. You got a pink slip. You know, it wasn't something you did necessarily, even if it was. You lost the job.
Even when you see it coming.
Right. Even when you see it coming, it still hurts. So we outlined in today's sermon about what do we do? What do we do when that happens? How do we prepare ourselves before that happens so that when it does hit, we're standing on much firmer ground, and it's still going to hurt. We're still going to be blown over. We're still going to, you know, have the hurricane winds coming through and blowing things and windows out and whatnot. But we're a little more prepared. We're not going to be just completely destroyed.
Ooh, what?
Go ahead.
I was gonna say, like in Isaiah, Jeremiah, and I think it's Ezekiel.
Okay.
It talks about where, you know, God gets irate with Israel numerous times because during the periods of prosperity, they decide to we don't really. So things are going good now. Like we put God on the back.
They forget. They forget the bad times, which we all do.
And then it comes around again, and then all of a sudden, you know, again, it's kind of like a criminal. You know, it's one parallel is a criminal. Like, you know, when sometimes you get two, you get the ones that are just the same all year round, no matter where they're at, and then you have the ones that, you know, a little cinder block Christian, and then. But anyway, like the whole point of that is that you got to be like as close to God as you are in the rough times as you are in the good times.
Absolutely.
And then there's going to be like really no more rough times because you keep it like
Look,
in equilibrium. It's still going to suck. It's not going to be pleasant, but you'll know you get through it.
the Jews were great teachers about messing up. Okay, they were great teachers about getting into good graces of God and screwing it up. I mean, the Old Testament's filled with stories of their mishaps and I mean, tell me honestly, God was about to wipe the humanity off the face of the earth because of the Jews and then their idiotic mistakes. But you know what? We all do that. We all make idiotic mistakes, and thank God, God's compassionate and loving and forgiving and can look and say, "Look, I get it. I made you. I know you got flaws. So repent. Learn from your mistakes." If you keep making the same mistake over and over and over and over and over, that's not repenting. You're not repenting. You don't care. You're not trying to change. That's the point. When you steal the bubble gum from Walmart and you feel bad about it, and you do feel bad about it the next day, and you go, "Oh my God, what have I done? Why did I do that?" And you feel bad, and you go the next day and you do it again.
When you start getting
And you go the next day and you do it again. And you go the next day and you do it again. You're not doing, you know you're doing wrong. You feel bad about it, but you're not repenting. You don't care. You're still going and doing it. So the whole point is here, repentance includes
correction.
learning. You've got to learn from it and stop it. I don't care how appealing it is, how wonderful it makes you feel. Stop it. You know that guilt in your stomach. What is that? That's God's little way of saying what you're doing is wrong. If you don't know it already, which you should, because you gave you a brain, here's something else. you're doing wrong. That's what guilt is. You're doing the wrong thing. Well, we all feel it in different little places. I get sick to my stomach. You know?
Some people.
Yeah.
Gavin.
One of the things that I especially liked about the sermon today was the example of a man who actually built his house by code.
Huh.
Hurricane code.
Go figure. A man actually built it by code. Can you believe it? And look what happened.
Mm-hmm. And
Now, there's no guarantee of that, by the way. Just to let everybody know, just because you followed code doesn't mean the hurricane's not still going to tear it down.
yes.
You know, it's just the way things work. But he was very lucky.
Yes, and it's just, I like the fact that it's a parable of how to be prepared and what's, if you do things the right way, then 9 times out of 10, you know, you're prepared for the storm that life is going to throw at you.
The point there is, you know, he did what he was supposed to do. You know, whether it worked or not, that's kind of all up to the laws of nature and to the will of God. You know, things don't always, just because you do what you're supposed to do, doesn't mean you're going to get what you think you're supposed to get. Doesn't mean it's going to work out in your favor. Just because you practiced every day and your team was prepared to go to state and you went to state, doesn't mean you're going to win. Just because you did everything you were supposed to do and did what the coach said and you worked out and you ate the right food and you did everything perfectly and you're all eligible because you all had straight A's in school and you went and you lost.
Kind of like how Goliath lost to David.
It happens.
Even though David was smaller,
Right.
he still had the Lord on his side,
Right.
and one quick blow to the head.
It happens. Yes.
Well, it's just okay. So it tells you, I don't know how many times in the Bible, He'll never give you anything that you can't endure. Just like Psalm 62:6 says, it says, He only is my rock and my salvation. He is my defense. I shall not be moved. So no matter what you go through, you're going through a season of change. Everything that He puts you through has a purpose to divinely place you into your destiny for your part in His prophecy.
Absolutely.
So you got to, even good, bad, ugly.
And we
all
talk
of
about
it
that. We talk about that all the time, about
blessing.
following our
'Cause
path.
You could have nothing.
Right.
Well said.
And we do talk about that. One of our big things in this church is we all have a different path we're following. You know, I can't tell you how to follow your path. That's not my place. I'm the bishop here, but I'm not a holy relic. I'm not God. I'm not His mouthpiece. Right? I'm a human being just like you are. Okay, and I can only teach you based on what I've learned in my life and what God has shown me. That's it. Take it or leave it. You know, take some of it and leave it. Take all of it. Or leave all of it. Just hold on a second now. Let me get my point across here. One of our basic principles here is we all are following our own path. And that's what we're doing here. We are helping each other to stay on your own path. I can't tell you what your path is. I don't know. That's between you and God. If you're doing what you're supposed to be doing and wanting to know where your path is, if you're not catching where your path is supposed to be going, you're not listening. And it's not to me that you're not listening. It's to God you're not listening. Because if you're praying and getting on your knees and saying, God, give me this and give me that, and I did this wrong, and help, and you know, pray for Aunt so-and-so and do this and that, thank you, amen, and you get up and you walk away. God was about to say something back to you.
Right.
Open your ears and listen. If you want the guidance that you're wanting from church, if you're wanting that leader to tell you where you're supposed to be going and your path is supposed to be that next step you're supposed to make, shut up and listen. It's that simple.
That is the next step.
Amen.
That's it. Shut up and
How do
listen.
you say it completely? Is prayer is what?
Just say,
Prayer is not a conversation. I mean, sorry, prayer is not a monologue. My bad.
Right.
Prayer is not a monologue.
It's a conversation.
It's a conversation between you and God. And let me tell you, it takes some time to get that ability down. It's not like you're just going to do it, okay? And it's not, you're not going to hear it here. You're not going to hear it up here. It's different for everybody. Some people hear it in the noise. Some people hear it in the silence. Some people hear it in their sleep. Some people can be driving down the highway and it hits them like a car, okay? God speaks to each and every one of us in a different way because He knows each and every one of us receives it in a different way. That's the important part. You can't just go on by what He said that, well, God told it to me this way, this is what's going to happen.
Amen.
If that was that easy, you know, we would all be dead. Hey, I know how to talk to God. I know how to listen. It's not that simple. It's not meant to be. Anything that's worth having, anything that's worth doing,
Takes effort.
takes work. If everything was, think about that. The easy stuff, the stuff that's easy to get. Okay, so everybody has it, right? But that stuff that everybody covets, those things like true love and good, long, sleeping, helpful, restful nights that we all don't get.
Serenity.
True serenity, which I believe that most of us never see. friendship that is unconditional and
Wonderful blessing.
always there for you, those things are hard. And those things take work. The 50-year anniversary of somebody's wedding, 50
Wow.
years, that's coveted because that takes work. Today's service was dedicated to my partner Ronnie, who passed away in 2010. And we were together for 16 years. And cancer took him from this world and gave him peace. But it left a hole in a lot of people's hearts, and that was my storm at the time. It was the beginning of the storms I didn't really realize even know were coming, because the next year I lost my mother.
Oh wow, I didn't know that.
And in the next 3 years, a total of, I believe it was 9 or 10 close family members in the next 3 years passed away. So it was a storm that didn't stop. It blew me away, you know. I wasn't prepared for that. My mother died and I didn't leave my apartment for a year. A year. That's the way I dealt with it. Was it the right way? Hell no. Did I get through it? Yes. Thank God. And all I can say to people is, look, this is the only way I know how to deal with this. And it was the only way I knew how to deal with it. It wasn't healthy. It wasn't right. It wasn't good.
You made it though.
I made it by the grace of God. Okay? And believe me, I cursed him up and down.
Blame him for everything.
I blamed him for everything. But you know what? All he was doing
Was his job.
giving them their reward. We're the ones that are left here and wondering why. They're
not
happy.
suffering, we are. Yeah.
They're where they're supposed to be.
Yeah,
We still got to get
everything.
there. That's what we're trying to get to. I love when people call us during service.
I know,
It's
right?
probably Aunt Patsy going, "Are you done yet? I need to come pick you up."
You're not answering your cell phone.
You're not answering your cell phone. Hold on, just a second. Let this go so we can hear it.
Yeah.
Let's see. It might be a bill collector.
Got it on Sunday.
Yeah, you never know.
Come on, Art.
I got killing me. Curiosity.
Curiosity killing that at this point.
Satisfaction brought
How
it
do you
back.
check that? Okay.
Satisfaction brought it back.
Where is it? Call ID. There we go. You know, it's a 224 area code. It's an Illinois cell phone. That's the second time they've called. I don't know who's calling from Illinois. Must be probably the Pope. He's probably visiting Chicago and wants me to come up and
He's
say
jealous.
hi.
He's jealous about your Google podcast.
He's jealous about Google Podcast.
Or
Let me tell you
it's like
something.
reward to tell
That
you
Google
that-
Podcast blew me away. I was
congratulate
shocked
you.
when I got online the other day and I just wanted to see. I was working on the program. I wanted to see if we had any new, because every week just about we've gotten a new
Yeah.
station pick us up.
This past month.
And I looked on there and it said Google Podcast, and I about fell out. I went, holy, you know what?
They really
That
would
was
be calling
the
to
day
congratulate
before
you.
they officially announced and all the news
Right.
people were publishing stuff.
We were in there, and I was like, that's a pretty big. I mean, that's for them to
I mean,
that's good.
I'm telling you, a God's random number from
leading
another
them
state, they may be calling to
to-
congratulate you for real.
You know, so you're
Well, hopefully.
you have
Hopefully.
purpose
That
that
would
he
be
is
really-
you know,
backing up. So
God may be
that's
leading
good.
them, but they're not all listening.
Well, hey,
So,
guess what?
so we have to
He
keep on
will work
working.
on their
We
ears.
keep on working and
He
keep
will.
trying. So what did you have for me?
Okay, so pertaining to your salvation, right? So we're
Absolutely.
all supposed to be Christ-like, okay?
That's what a Christian is.
So yeah, what a Christian is, right? So a Christian should be selfless. That's what Christ was. He was
Men for others, being a man or woman
selfless.
for others.
You know what he
That's
cared
what we
about?
talk about.
He gave up his work. He became homeless. He became poor. He became broken
Pariah.
to overcome, as we would, to prove to us that you can do all things. Now, when you truly believe it, those with the faith of a mustard seed can move a mountain, right? Okay, God will work in mysterious ways, but if you don't allow Him to, you're
Can I
the
ask you a
only one.
question?
Yes, sir.
And I'm going to interrupt you.
Go ahead.
I just want to ask you, what faith were you brought up in?
I was brought up in Pentecostal,
Uh-huh.
and after that, I just Christian non-denominational. But the thing is that
Fantastic. You know your Bible verses very, very well.
I do.
You do.
No, I do from church, but
Absolutely.
But you know who taught me about faith?
Who?
My father.
Absolutely.
Taught me
Your-
directly.
Your father or God? Which one are you speaking
God.
of? Just to make sure.
No. When I say
Okay.
father, I don't talk about
Understood.
that's not earth.
Understood.
Okay. Yeah, he's dad. That's cool.
I want to just throw something at you. I
ahead.
love the fact that
Go
you
ahead.
are so well versed. I get that, and I love that. I mean, I think that's fantastic
It's your
that you
sword.
are.
When the devil comes out,
However-
what are you gonna say?
However,
Go ahead.
you're probably not going to like what I'm going to say next.
It's okay.
And that's
Don't get
okay.
offended easily.
It's okay. Is my belief, and it's the belief of this church, that the Bible is a beautiful book.
Mhm.
It is. It's a wonderful study guide
Mhm.
for life.
Right.
But the Bible began with its God's breath,
Right.
divinely inspired.
Mhm.
God's hands never touched that Bible.
Mhm.
That Bible went through a lot of human hands,
Right.
and went through a lot of human hands that changed it.
Right.
Now, humanity
Yeah,
comes things
yeah.
like
Mhm.
corruption,
Mhm.
comes things like mistakes, comes things like
Manipulation.
accidents, comes things like
Mhm.
greed. Okay,
Prejudice.
there are mistakes, there are misinterpretations,
Mhm.
there are books that have been purposefully hidden from
Mhm.
us.
Very much.
Okay, that's not anybody's place to do that but God's.
That's
God
right.
divinely inspired it. Leave it alone
Mhm.
and let us decide. So that's why, here I say, God gave us a brain. You've got this book in front of you. It's a wonderful book. There's so much there to learn from. There are some great parables of life. Whether you believe they're real or not really doesn't matter. There's only one story in there that matters, and that's the death and resurrection of Jesus Christ. The others, I couldn't give a damn if they really happened or not, because that's not what really matters. What matters is, what's the lesson it's trying to teach you? What is it trying? How is it trying to make you live your life? Okay, right? Because I believe the Bible's great. It's a wonderful way to start things.
Right.
But our important thing, do we really want to know the answers? What do?
Faith
You ask God.
Yeah, faith
Just
back.
talk to Him. He'll talk back to you. Why do you need to go through a book? Why do you need to go through a book to understand your life? When He's telling you, I created you, just ask me. I'll tell you what you're supposed to do.
Asking will be
Right?
given.
Meditate
Asking
on-
he-
You see where I'm coming from there?
Asking it shall be given unto you. I mean, it's the simplicity of it.
It's so
People
simple.
ignore it because guess what?
Absolutely.
They don't want the simplicity of it, because if they get the simplicity of it, they'll actually have a real relationship.
You're right. You're right. And people think that if it's that simple, then it's not that. It can't be that simple. It can't be that simple.
I gotta make it more complicated.
Having that relationship with God, having that kind of interpersonal relationship with God cannot possibly be that easy. Because if it is, everybody would have it, right? So these people try and make it harder. They try and say, "Oh no, okay, you got to do this," and because you did this, you can't have communion.
You can't have what I have.
What does it say? Honor thy father and mother. He is the father.
You can't have communion.
They try to accomplish their own selfish agendas.
Well, no, they try and
I
title
don't think I ever heard
themselves
Jesus
greater than
Christ say,
You can't.
"You can't." I don't think I ever heard Jesus Christ said. I believe what He said is, "Take this,
All of you.
all of you."
Every
him. That's his desire for all is to.
And that's what He said about everything. Because you know what? Jesus lived with the sinners.
Amen.
Jesus lived with the tax collectors. Jesus lived with the prostitutes.
He was.
Jesus
Right.
was not a sinner.
He was not.
Jesus was perfect.
Wasn't
Yeah,
it
he
a
was
The
prostitute?
only man
Jesus
ever
was human.
on earth,
But He
perfect.
was without sin.
He never sinned.
Never
Never.
sinned.
I didn't realize that.
He was the Son of God.
Mark.
So how could he have got on the level of those people, but yet?
Because He stooped down.
But then just witnessed
First coming from heaven to earth.
I know
And then
He
He
was
stooped
God,
down
though.
further and got down on their level and said,
But he viewed it all. He didn't.
oh, He felt it.
Enjoy.
He felt it. He felt them. He understood them. He was able to empathize with them. But He did not
Take part with this.
Right.
sin. He tried to grab them by the hands and say, look, I have a better way. I love you.
And then he was cast out for it.
You are loved. I love you. Because that's what God is.
everybody
Eternal,
laughed and made
complete,
fun of him.
unconditional love. That's what He was spreading.
Well, they made fun of him because he was the priest. There's only one.
No, because he was an
priest.
outcast. Everybody in the room's whoring and doing all this stuff, and then he's standing there
Jesus
looking
is
like that.
the
You know?
priest
Right?
of.
It was because
No,
of
look
the
at this.
message he
He's
was
priest.
carrying, aka the Pharisees and everything like that.
So he literally
had
just
a certain
stood by
idea.
while all of this was
He
occurring.
didn't stand by.
He
He
took.
flipped the table.
He offered another route, another choice.
No, yeah, no.
He ruffled feathers. Why?
He
Because
sacrificed.
He was
they had taken a wrong turn. The Pharisees, the rabbis that were there, they had let corruption and greed and all of the things that the devil's trying to put into our lives every day. take over the temple.
Right.
This was not no longer God's house.
He gave them another route.
And this was one of the reasons that Jesus Christ went in and overturned the temple and said, "You're not doing this in my house anymore. This is my Father's house. Get out."
He was also a shepherd.
He
Coming
was a
into
shepherd.
coming into the place of worship.
What does that mean?
The shepherd?
What does that
Protect
mean?
the shepherd is
Now,
the one
there's
that-
two meanings there, though. Understanding the shepherd.
Well,
The shepherd. The
is-
shepherd.
he-
Yeah,
Well,
he
at
was,
that time he was a
leader.
shepherd.
yeah, he was a real shepherd.
Yeah.
But he was also our shepherd.
They were considered dirty and
But cowboy.
Bring it in, guys. Come on now.
Actually, that brings to mind.
Hold on one second. Go ahead.
I believe that the reason why God, when Jesus was on earth, the reason why he who the people he really went to is the people that was the people that you would think the opposite is because like they're the people who's going to truly see good, because if you don't go from bad to good, you don't know what good is. Like if you don't have, you can't like plant a tree not so deep at all and expect it to grow tall. You can't expect to see something so great and so powerful if you haven't seen hell already, because you don't know how you wouldn't know. So how I think of it is like you can't reach heaven. A tree can't reach heaven if it doesn't have roots all the way in heaven.
Absolutely. We talk about that a lot. We talk about that yin and yang of the universe. The universe will always be equal, right? And because of that,
You mean equal, like weighed out
the
proportionally?
universe will always be equal in all things.
You mean proportionally as far
Always. It's equal.
Perfect.
Now,
Shim.
and because of that, you have to think about it this
So
way.
it's perfectly balanced.
Perfectly. It always will be. And that's why I can say
So
things
really
like,
good and evil really won't outdo each other ever. They're both.
It's like a band.
It's a battle.
It stretches
It's a
to
battle,
good
but-
and then
it's valid. But understand the universe will always equalize itself. That's why when we talk about this emotion of love, unconditional love, I mean, something that most of us have never seen, and never really experienced,
Most
never
of them are not
given.
even capable of it, really.
Absolutely. When we talk about that elite emotion, there's another side over here.
Yeah,
And that's true and total hate.
Yeah.
That would be the
In order to have this,
exist. You have to have.
you have to have this.
That's right.
And in order to understand this and experience this, you have to understand and experience that.
Right.
And when you looked up and you held your hands, what am I doing?
Stretching
Praising
back out.
God. All the glory.
Because that's what it's
yourself out.
about.
Right.
I'm just giving it to
All
God
about
because
Him.
He's the one who's giving me these gifts, because they are both gifts, because without one, you can't have the other.
That's right.
Think about that.
No,
Because,
it's-
I mean,
yeah.
literally think about it. Without understanding hate, how could you possibly know what love
That's
is?
right.
Well, you can't
It's giving me
appreciate it,
chills.
at least.
How can you have it?
You can have it. You can't.
No.
You,
No, because you have no
without
knowledge.
without
Hold on.
experiencing one, you can't appreciate. I mean, I can't.
Here.
I think it takes experiencing one to really appreciate, and it was the other one.
It's true. The most
Here's the
important
deal.
person is yourself.
Listen.
First.
Listen. Okay, listen. Just I understand what you're saying, and you're down here in these emotions on the pendulum. You're down here still. We're talking about elite. We're talking about the finite, the best, the ones with superlatives.
Something our
okay?
human minds
And
can't comprehend, probably.
in order to
God's
achieve that, in order to know that, in order to have, you're talking about love in a different sense. We're talking about God's love, His unconditional, complete love for us. In order to really understand that and hold that in our hands and capture that, there's no other way, because you can't. You're right. Appreciate. You're right. You can't appreciate, and if you can't appreciate, you can't have it. This one you can't, because without the appreciation of it, you will never attain it.
That's right.
Without the respect of it, you'll never attain it. You may know about it. You may know about these things over here, these great ideals. Most of us never, ever come close to achieving those. Which is why I say, put your hands up and raise them to God, and just,
That's as close as we can get to
Ask
it.
Him for it all.
For now.
Ask Him
Yeah.
for everything.
And that
Now.
appreciation
All the
actually
understanding.
goes.
and you're right.
If
We're
you
like
don't ask
begging
Him,
for it.
You're right about, we forget
wait until you do.
we forget when the good times come along, and we're living in the riches, and we're on high on the hog, as they call it, right? And we're, hey, luck's on my side, lady luck, hey, look what I did, look what I did,
So quickly.
look what I did, hey, look what I did.
Nothing.
You didn't do
You
anything.
can do nothing.
Give the praise to God. Yeah.
God-
What He's done for you.
God let
You
you.
can talk. You can do nothing. Period.
God is the
You
one
are
that
But
made
how
it.
quickly
non-existent.
people forget that.
Without God,
So quickly.
nothing exists.
If you like you said, if
You gotta start a church, young man. You got
You know, it's
the
funny,
power,
I've
you
been
got the gift of
prophesied
gab,
to
don't
be-
you?
I've
You
been-
got it.
Well, no, it's just I've been prophesied
I
to
got
be
you.
a
No, I
preacher.
got you. I got you.
And
I'm
I
right
was
there with you.
prophesied to be a psalmist.
Amen.
Oh, Lord.
Amen.
Can I say something
You
real
may,
quick?
Gavin. Go ahead.
I've been trying to.
I'm sorry. Go ahead.
All right. I was trying to get in there real quick.
It's tough. Hey, everybody's got something to say here. It's good.
That's-
We like
that's
that.
a good thing.
The Holy Spirit is here with us.
Yes. One of the things that I'm gathering from what everyone's saying is that the Bible is essentially, let's look at it as instructions. Now, I can give someone the instructions to do something, but it's up to them whether or not they follow it. And
Absolutely.
that's the part where the free will comes in and all
Okay.
that. And so,
We're saying a lot more than that also about the Bible.
and the other part that I'm getting is the fact that, as Caleb so wonderfully said, how can we truly appreciate going through, or how can we truly appreciate heaven if we haven't been through hell or
You
through
can't.
tribulations? There,
You can't.
it even says in the Bible that we go through adversity as gold goes through fires to come out as pure gold.
And here's the deal about that. I was talking to Caleb about this the other day about some things about, when we hit these storms of our lives. A lot of times we hit these storms and these things happen, and we don't understand it. It hurts, and we're wondering, and we keep getting knocked down. We keep standing up and getting knocked down, and standing up and getting. And that's what I was talking about with all the deaths in my family at that time, when it just really was like we bury one, and my God, my 24-year-old cousin ODs and dies because he took too many pain pills because he burned his hand. I mean, my godfather dies of leukemia. He was in remission a month before. Just hit again and again and again, and we're like, "What are you doing?" I mean, we're on our knees at that point. What have I done to deserve this?
Right.
It's not what you've done to deserve this.
It's what you.
It's what you're earning
Mm-hmm.
for what you're going to get. Because I can look now, and I can go, "Yeah, they were rough." But I know in the midst of that now, if that were to happen again, I can go, "The good times are coming." Because I'm experiencing it's going to be equal. The good times are coming. I'm feeling the pain now. I'm dealing with the pain. I'm taking this side of it so that I can appreciate when that good time comes. Because when I was able to lift my head above that muck that I was in for those few years and breathe again,
You've earned your right for the.
I breathed air
That's
that I'd
right.
never breathed in my life. And it was the same air that was always there. But I appreciated it so much more because I had been down there and known what that
The
was.
simplest thing was just wonderful at that point, right?
Yes, sir.
Well, it's kind of like he tells you need to study yourself approved. When God tells you that to be approved, you don't even know what you have to do in order to be approved. So,
Explain that to me.
so you're supposed to study yourself approved
Okay.
in the knowledge of His Word.
Tell me like I'm a fifth grader.
Okay, so pretty much what you're going to have to do is you're going to have to actually build a real relationship with God. So you know what you have to do? You have to actually talk to Him. You
Sure.
have to spend time with Him.
Sure.
You have to read the Word. You have to build your spirit, man. You have to fellowship. You have to trust. Like Proverbs 3:5-6 says, trust in the Lord with all thy heart.
There you go.
Lean
With that
not on
Bible
thine
quotes. I love
understanding.
it. I love it.
In all the ways acknowledge Him, and He shall direct thy path. It didn't say nothing about trusting anybody but Him.
That's obvious.
God is first.
That's obvious.
Who do you ask for everything? God. If you
Obviously.
have a problem, Father.
Obviously.
If you have any complication, Father. You never seek different help but God's first. And then if He does not give you the right answer right at the
Oh,
time,
wait a
if
minute.
it's not in His time,
But that doesn't
Wait a
mean
minute.
seek
He may not
counseling.
answer you
Go-
through somebody.
no,
God
no,
doesn't-
no,
Yeah,
no.
he-
There is proper order in church on what you're supposed to do. If you do not get an answer directly from God, you go to,
Who made that order?
I don't remember where it's in the Bible. I have to look it up. Look, I
But-
do
but
a lot of
listen to
reading,
me. Here's the deal now.
Yeah.
Here's the deal.
but it is the Bible.
Just because it's in the Bible doesn't mean it's true, young man.
Yeah. I mean, you can ask for discernment for it. You gotta ask for
Just
discernment.
because a sermon says it
No,
doesn't mean
discernment.
discernment. You can discern
from the
anything you
Holy
want.
Spirit.
Listen,
you can ask the Holy
here's
Spirit
what I
to lead
know.
you to the right
Here's what I know.
information.
But your answer may
there
come
could
through
be a
somebody
whore that he's
where
placed in your path
True
to be the
story.
very next person
Right.
you're supposed to be after.
God will interrupt our lives in many different
That's
ways and give us
true.
answers through
That's
many different.
true.
He is God. He's the all divine.
You do it.
He
That's true. In any way
He is the one who decides how we're going to hear it.
Right.
Because sometimes we aren't capable of hearing Him. Sometimes we aren't capable of listening to what He says.
So he
So what does He do?
meant it
He sends the mailman over
That's true.
and knocks at our door to say something to us
Totally
that,
random, out of nowhere.
that we go,
strangers.
oh,
Yes. Mhm.
oh, what?
Or we may not even
What?
understand. We go, huh?
But we get it because He
We
knows
stop
that that's how we'll
and
understand
we go,
it.
oh my
Right,
gosh.
right. Well, because
Right.
it does tell you beware
But if you
of
don't listen to
entertaining
anybody,
strangers
that
because you
happens.
may be entertaining an angel.
That's absolutely right.
So you
Which is
never-
why, what do you do with strangers? You treat everybody the same,
Yes.
with the same respect and the same love and the same unconditional friendship that you would give anybody else. Because
Amen.
that bum that smells like piss walking down the street over here, and this guy over here in the Gucci suit,
Yeah.
I guarantee you,
Both are
One
equal.
thing,
Same line.
you need to treat both of them the same.
Mhm.
Because you don't know which one's Jesus Christ coming back for the second coming.
Amen.
You don't know which one of them it is. This one's saying he is. The one over here in the Gucci suit and the crown on his head, he says he's Jesus Christ.
but the one over here begging for some
But
help.
this one,
What if it's a fake?
this one over here pissing all over himself and talking to himself and looking like an idiot, guess what?
That's probably him.
When I was hungry, did
How do you
feed
know?
me?
Mhm.
And you're writing him off
So-
like he's nothing.
That's
Treat
right.
everybody the
That's right.
same.
Right.
Respect everybody mutually. Because when we do that, when we all are equal, when we all,
That's right.
if God willing, that someday that happens,
You can
when we
see
are all
clearly.
can look each other in the eye and go, I'm just like you, you're just like me.
We understand
The world
image.
changes at that point.
Amen.
Because it's like,
Because the
It's like
evil
everything
has
is
no.
clear.
It's a
evil has no
utopia that'll never happen.
Yeah.
no,
I mean,
what?
I pray that it does.
You're wonderful.
But it, you know,
Right.
that's God's will.
Mhm.
Okay? I think that there's a lot more lessons to be learned before that time ever comes.
Yeah.
We have a long way to go.
I mean,
We have a long way to go. We're not necessarily going the right way either. You know, we talk about
now you're talking about as a whole humanity, or is
talking
it
about humanity,
human being
talking about
individually?
everything and all of that.
Both, yeah.
Everything. What has changed since Jesus Christ came 2,000 years ago?
Whoa.
What's different? What's different today than it was then?
What's not different?
No, I'm talking about earthly things.
Technology.
I'm talking about earthly things,
advertising.
not earthly things.
I do know something that has not changed.
What's that?
Love.
True
But
story.
you know what? The understanding of it
That's
has
true.
diminished.
It has been yes.
It's been misused, misquoted,
Abuse.
misguided, abused, mistreated,
Yeah.
and lost.
That's right.
But it's also evolved, and some.
It has some, but is it evolved for the better?
I believe
Has it?
so.
How? Explain that to me.
It's evolved as a tool.
One of the ways that I believe that love has evolved over the years, for one, gays can actually get married now, so that shows that love does not
You know,
discriminate
that's-
against.
Okay, understood.
So the understanding that love doesn't discriminate that's a.
But let me stop you for a second. Just hold on for a second. Hear me out. Okay. The Bible does not bring up the subject of homosexuality. The Bible does not say that, in fact, the word homosexual didn't exist in Aramaic, which is what the Bible was written in. Okay? So understand this. In the time of Jesus, from all that we can discern, from all that we can understand, it was known that there were homosexuals, that there wasn't a word for it, but as we're calling it, homosexuals. It took love, the understanding of that, and the love of those people to decline to the point where we were being killed, our lives were being turned upside down, we were being beaten like I was with a baseball bat by 5 teenagers behind a club, or stabbed in the back because of the fact that I was gay. It took those times, remember we're looking about the bad times? Remember that? It took that decline in love for us now to start to rebound. So yes, it evolved, but we haven't changed that because we're just now getting back to where it was. Because there wasn't anything about you couldn't do it. You were, if you, that's just what, I mean, they just didn't bother with it because it didn't matter. Love is love is love.
Right.
Period.
Your soul doesn't have a heart, doesn't have a soul, as a sex.
It doesn't have a
This is
mind.
just dust.
Yeah.
Right.
How about this then? From what I got from what you just said is through adversity, it's how love truly evolves.
That's how we learn to appreciate it.
Yeah.
Because it was there, and it was just kind of like, we're the ones that made a big deal out of it, not the Christians, those Christians, the Christians. When I say that, when I say the Christians, you know what? What is the definition of Christianity? What is the definition of being a Christian? Being Christ-like. When you have hate, when you have judgment, you are not Christ-like.
That's right.
And that's me judging you. Yes, it is, and I'm sorry, but
Well, that's stating a fact.
It's
that's
true.
more stating
That's
a
in
fact.
First John.
God is
Or not First
love.
John. I'm sorry.
God didn't say
He
Cain.
wants you to love unconditionally.
That's it.
That's it. Simple.
And if you do that, if you're able to truly have that kind of love in your heart for each and every person on this earth,
Even when they don't
and
have it for
serve and
themselves.
worship God, which is your purpose here on this earth,
You got it.
what more could you? Everything else falls into place
That's
behind
right.
that. Your whole life is now done.
The purpose.
It's perfect.
And Mark, it's
So,
like the
Keep. So here, I'm saying to you here.
Alright.
Keep looking for that love.
Mhm.
Keep aspiring.
Keep giving it.
Fill yourself. Here's the problem with that. Most people
Don't know how to.
don't love themselves. And if you don't love yourself, you don't have anything to give. If I have $1 in my pocket,
And I'm asking you for it.
you need $1, right? I got $1. Okay, I have $1. If I have $1 to give you and you need this dollar, I'm able to give you this $1.
But then now what
For nothing.
Okay? Give me my $1 back.
Because aren't you hungry too?
If I don't have the $1 and you put your hand out for the $1, put your hand out for the $1.
As bad as you want to. You can.
I can say I'll give you, here's $1. Here it is. It's really,
But he can't go do anything with that.
but there's nothing there. I can tell it all I want. I can say I love you all I want to. I can say, yes, I love you, I'm giving you my love. But you know what? I don't have any to give you, so you don't get anything. You just got gypped.
Right.
Until you love yourself. And the only way to do that is what? Let God
Well, I got a
develop your
question.
life. Let God, just wait.
Not only
Let me finish. Let me finish. Hold your thought. Hold your thought. Let God fill every aspect of you. Every breath you make. Every thought your brain makes. Every step. That's a song, isn't it? Every move you make, something like that. I was going somewhere with that. Now listen. When that happens and you're able to truly be in that realm with God and understand exactly what He wants, and you get that love for yourself, and you realize that you're worthwhile, you are part of Him. He made you. He made you in His image, and He loves you. So He's giving you His love. You're taking that now, and what? You're making that your love, because now you love yourself, and you know that you are loved, and you love yourself. Then you can give that love away.
Which also, hold on. Which
Hold
also
on, I'm
follows
with you.
with what you said before as well about helping someone else who doesn't love themselves. If you have love to give, let them borrow some of your love
Absolutely, I say that all
and
the
lift them
time.
up.
There are in this world, in this field that I'm in, I come across people who think that they know what love is and think they can give love.
That's what. Well, that's
They
what I was
think
gonna say.
And
Because if you don't have it to give, and then you think you're giving it, even if you're not, then you're giving a fake.
sometimes they don't know
a
though.
misrepresent. Right. But what I'm
Yeah.
saying is that it's also passing that on. It's giving a false of what love is. So then that's
So
not
we
teaching
have
them to love themselves.
muddled what the definition of love is.
It's a
by that.
downward spiral, right?
Yes, sir.
The true
Absolutely.
definition of love would be pure love.
Unconditional love,
Pure
correct?
love
Which is
overcomes
unconditional.
all evil. So pure love has no expectations.
Now, my pure definition of love is God. I'm sorry, that's it.
God is love.
God.
Exactly.
That's it.
That's First John.
Something like add on to say if you have $1 and you give it and you don't have $1 to give away, well, you think if you do have that $1, what do you have to go through to get that $1?
Mm-hmm.
Right.
And if you don't,
So that makes you value the dollar more.
So you gotta. If you really want that $1, you have to expect to go through bad, horrible things to get it.
It's hard to get things. You have to work to get it.
But then-
You've got to earn it.
Tribulation.
But then by you just giving it to him, that person didn't
That's life.
have to do that, so they don't understand it.
So
entirely.
when you're right. I understand where you're coming from. You're saying that when we say we're giving love and we really didn't have to give, even if we didn't know we didn't have to give,
Right.
It's causing this chain reaction of people giving away this love that never really existed.
Of this
Kinda like
So we have an economy of love built on
That
nothing.
nobody really
and
knows.
what happens? It falls.
It's a debt. It's a
So listen.
spiral. Yeah.
Because
Listen.
it's not
Know
based
this.
on the
That's where we're at
foundation.
right now.
Start getting the love for yourself. Start
Correct.
loving.
Yes.
Start loving yourself.
Amen.
Know that God loves you. Accept that love. Take that love and learn to love yourself. Once it seems selfish, it does.
So good.
But the only way to give it away is to have it in your heart.
I just had an epiphany.
When you have that love, begin to give it away. Don't hold it.
Yeah.
Give, because when you give that love away, what happens? It's like a bank.
Oh,
It grows. It's like a dividend.
You don't
You
even
just
know
got
what to do
stock
with it.
options.
Yeah.
Boom! It got bigger.
That love spreads.
Because
Yeah.
even though you give that love away, part of that love away from your heart,
It comes
heart
from
is still full.
Like,
And it stays full as long as you stay in that connection with your God who loves you, and all these people you give your love away to. That's how you begin that economy of real love that is unfaltering, that doesn't fall, that is full, that is always has the love behind it to back it. And that's how we make the world a better place.
I've always had this, not excuse per se, but like how can I love myself if I've never been loved? Duh, God loves me. My mother doesn't have to love me. God does.
Who created you?
God.
Amen.
People are human. People
I
are
don't need my
fallible.
mom.
Listen to
I
me.
have God.
People are fallible. People
Make
make
mistakes.
mistakes.
That's
And
why
you know
I was
what?
forgiven her, but I didn't understand why I didn't.
That's what you have to do. You got to go look.
But those two
I
just
know.
came together, and I just.
I know you didn't mean this. And if you did,
But I've always done
I
my part.
forgive you.
I've always understood.
This is
that
not
that's
on me.
She did
I
the
can't
best
hold.
she could do.
I can't hold on to this.
Right.
Because if I do, what does it do? When you hold on to that pain,
It still
what
left
does
me
it
feeling
do?
empty, though.
No, it wasn't empty.
It's
If
gonna
you hold on to that
grow.
pain,
It
you're not
turns
empty.
into
Let me tell you where you're in.
Yeah.
You've got this thing in here. And what happens? You get this pain, you keep shoving it down. You keep shoving it down. You shove, and that thing starts to what? It starts to rot inside you. And what does that do? Because you're just letting that control your life. And what happens when things rot inside you? It starts to fester, and pus starts to form and starts to flow through your body. And I'm a firm believer in this, and I believe this till the day I die. People who hold on to that kind of bullshit in their lives
Become hopeless.
end up with cancer,
Yeah. It rids
end
the
up
body.
with it takes over not only your
Absolutely.
soul but your body, and it will overcome you and
Yeah.
take you with it.
Yeah, it's
Don't
a
let
poison.
it do it.
They
Let
become
it
hopeless,
go.
right?
Forgive.
It comes from the devil.
Forgive.
I always have.
Forgive. Everybody. This is not just for you, Hunter.
No, yeah.
I want everybody to hear it. Because people don't realize that. They think, oh, that
But I
guy,
think that
yeah,
it's
he
always
stole
left me
from me and
feeling
he's
so
probably down there in Mexico City right now having a good old time. That jerk, I'm going to kill him. And on.
Yeah.
And going on for months. And guess what happens?
Then they wonder why they're all the time.
Well,
Why
because you
are they-
gave foothold to
my
the
stomach.
devil
Ulcers
to
too.
be in your
Why?
My,
Why?
Everything.
Because you held on to that hate.
They lose their minds. Everything.
Let that go. That's not God.
Mm-mm.
So,
God gave us a wonderful thing when Jesus Christ took his last breath on that cross.
The power to do something different, right?
God, Father, forgive them, for they know not what they do.
So it's not their fault.
Same thing.
They don't mean to.
because we're
They don't know
if
any
it
better,
was, even if it was, it has nothing to do with you. You have to learn that
But I also don't have to gain an
I have
understanding
to
of why
let
they're
go.
doing it. I just have
You
to
don't
forgive
need
them.
to
God
understand
loves the sinner, not the
Because they don't even know
you
why
don't
they're
have to
doing it.
understand
Right.
it. Now, we want to know why. We're people of
Logic.
facts,
Logic,
logics.
yeah.
We want to know why.
It needs to make sense. It doesn't. I don't
Just like we
understand.
with God. Well, how prove it? Prove God. Well, I see the proof
I
Do
feel
you
the
breathe?
proof.
Do you
I
breathe?
see it
Do you see it? Okay.
in
good.
everybody's eyes.
Yeah.
I hear it in the birds. People go, oh, that's just bull. You're just talking
That's just
crap.
how you want to.
You just trying to. No, I'm serious when I say that. Because you know what? Look around the universe.
Truth will be heard.
What other planet do you see like this? We haven't found one yet.
Still looking.
Do you realize what it took for this Earth, for this world, to be in a space
It's unfound.
that make life happen? All of these steps that had the millimeters of that planet hitting ours from either complete destruction or causing our moon to form, and the moon
Our
then
minds cannot even hardly
orbiting
dude. Like,
perfectly, and we're in this little area around the sun where it's not too hot, it's not too cold, we're perfect.
Every
And the moon's going around us causing tides, and this muck from the ocean starts to come ashore.
It's literally
And
incomprehensible. Like we can't even begin to understand.
everything was not just right.
Coincidence, no.
Everything was perfect. and there's not another planet we've found yet.
And I mean, I'm talking a millimeter of a degree.
And we can see pretty far in the universe now. There's not another planet we have found yet.
That even becomes close to even beginning to even.
So think about that.
Yeah.
God gave us
Nothing
this.
just happened.
If God didn't love us,
Right.
if God didn't think we were something special, do you really think that He would have gone through all that trouble? Because it took a lot of calculations
Right, I mean,
to get this right.
You
know what I'm saying?
He would not give up his own
imaginable
son.
things.
The most
Everything happened for a
painful
reason. Like
thing.
the earth was like put in the spot for a reason, so it didn't get too hot from the sun and didn't get too cold from the wind.
Right.
The plants are placed
Everything
certain
happened
in
for
a
a
certain
reason. That's what I
place,
say,
so it
there's no
gets certain water. It's
coincidences,
like
right?
Everything is
it
significant.
connects all the way back to like human
Because
beings. As
when he
if we're
destroys
not,
it,
if everything in our life
time.
doesn't happen directly for a reason, then the whole world just buys. It doesn't make sense.
So
is there
there
really no
are no
coincidences?
there are no coincidences
Right.
in this
that's
world.
not- I just got picked.
There are no coincidences in this world.
Literally, there cannot be because
Everything's
everything is
Let me
getting
tell you this:
calculated.
if you're able to lift yourself up out of this chaos that we live in, because it is chaos. It seems like it. It seems like it to us, doesn't it?
Yeah, well, chaos.
But get above it. So let me give you an example. Just hold on to this for a second. Wow. A husband and wife are always fighting. They're always at each other, and their friends are always getting drawn into it. You know, well, you know, you put in the middle, and this and that, and it's just it's frustrated everybody. But one friend is able to is not always there, but you know, sees this going on and kind of watches from afar and sees it, and is able to step back out of that chaos for a second, and kind of look and peer and go say, okay, I see what's happening. You're doing this, which is causing this person to do this, and this person's doing that, which is causing, and then you're bringing in this person, this and this, and there's a pattern here. This happens every time.
That's right.
It happens every time and every time. If we're able to lift ourselves up out of this chaos for a moment and look down on our lives,
View it from a third person point of view.
all of our lives, there's patterns because God created them. Because even though we think we're in chaos and we think that it's by chance and this and that and all, look, it's not. The universe is created with patterns. The world, everything is.
Just like a computer. It
All
has to
works.
have-
He has.
Yeah.
This is the way He planned it. This is what He wants. This is how it is. And if you're able to get up, I wish we could. God, I wish I could do that. I wish I could get above my
Isn't that
life
fantastic?
and go, oh, that's where I'm going.
Duh.
That's where you're trying to get me to go. That's why you keep putting this in my life.
Right.
I thought you were just being a jerk.
What the heck? I get it now. Yeah.
That's
So
where faith
think about it
comes
that
out.
way.
That's
Think about it that way. So when something keeps happening and you keep dismissing it, leave me
Who are
alone.
me? Why
Why does this fly keep coming and hitting my ear? Stop it. Stop it.
Remember what
And it keeps landing on your left ear at the
It's
same
not
time.
just to aggravate you.
Just take a moment and go,
Why?
There's got to be more to this.
maybe
Right.
there's got to be, what's going on here?
Let me see.
Now don't go driving yourself crazy with every little nuance, thinking that everything is God trying to change your life. But look,
This and that, this and that.
there are no coincidences in this world. There are no coincidences, period. God has a plan. He's put it into practice. We are part of that plan, and He gave us free will. Although He is all-knowing and knows what were the choices we're going to make, yes, He does. He gave us the will to begin with so that we can make those choices.
Is it true the first thing that goes through your head is what you should normally always go
Not
with?
always.
No.
No, not always. What I do say is, trust this.
Yeah.
And I've told
The
you
one
that
that keeps
before.
coming back.
I've told you that before. That gut feeling,
The one that
you
keeps
call it
coming
whatever you
back.
want to call it.
Yeah.
Call it intuition. Call it, whatever. I call it God saying, hey, shh.
Call it
Hey,
pause for all
you
I care.
don't need to be doing that.
Mm-hmm.
The one that keeps
God
coming
doing
back,
this.
Coming back.
It's
coming
Him
back.
spanking
Poking
you
on my
without-
stomach going, hey,
No.
I'm trying to talk to you here.
All these other things pop in and now
When you
we're
learn how to listen to
Right.
God, though, when you learn how to listen to God,
You understand that.
things fall into place. Let me tell you something. I've said this before, and I'll say it again. I'm lucky.
I'm so glad.
I'm not some saint. I'm not going to say I'm anything better than anybody else because of this. But I'm lucky because I was able to get this early on and to learn how to listen. Now, because of that, I would go and I'd pray and I would pray and I'd learn and I'd listen and I'd pray and I'd listen and I'd pray and I'd listen. Well, now because I've not perfected it. It's not perfect, but I have practiced those skills and I've learned how to hear God and how He's interacting with me and how to feel and know what He wants. I don't need to go and sit and pray for Him to talk to me.
And only that could have been
Now-
accomplished by time. because
Now
you
the
moved back.
telephone's open both ways.
Right.
And I can be walking down the street and He goes, hey, guess what? Why don't you go tell these people this over here because I think that would really be good. This would really help their lives.
Ah.
Freak you out. You'd be like, what? What do you
And that's amazing to me because and it's a little annoying at times, but it's amazing to me that God
Trust you for that.
trusted me and allowed me, because I don't know anybody else. And I don't know anybody else. I mean, I'm going to talk about it, but I mean, probably think I'm crazy, but it's an amazing gift to have God come and tap you on the shoulder and say something in your ear. That's an amazing gift.
Oh yeah.
And it's I'm grateful for it because I'm trying to use that to make everybody else that I know, everybody else I can touch and teach them that there's this amazing thing out there that you're missing out on. And I try and teach you, get down and pray. Trust me on this. I know it sounds crazy, people, but Lou, just get up and shut up. Just shut up.
Just
Give it 10 minutes. If you haven't heard anything in 10 minutes, okay. Try it again tomorrow.
Yeah.
Do it again tomorrow. And because when you get there and you have that feeling and then God taps you on the shoulder the first time, oh my God.
Oh my God.
Be expected.
Exactly.
My God, my
Oh
God.
my God. It's
Right.
amazing. I'm tingling.
Me too.
It's an amazing feeling.
Now watch out. You might go to jail.
I gotta say, God has an uncanny way of communicating, though, just for the simple fact it's never in a direct way. It's always indirect.
No, but
It's
not
subtle. And for me personally,
Not always.
Is it like
for
a
me
riddle?
personally,
For you, maybe. Yes,
for me
okay.
personally, the way God speaks to me is through subtle changes, or somehow I'm being guided to a certain area, and somebody said, "I'm thinking of something," and something that comes out of somebody's mouth that I'm just like, "What the hell?" There's my answer.
Yeah.
God is
Right.
always finding new ways to
Amen.
talk to you. He's going to make sure you hear him. Okay?
Exactly.
Yeah, it
The
is.
problem
And
is
it's just paying
sometimes like
attention.
you don't want to. You can't hear God because you have all these other people yelling at you to do another thing.
Or you decide you want to do something else altogether.
You're so distracted by what you think you know, and then when God taps you on the shoulder and says, "Hey, take a right,"
You don't.
That's right.
you can't hear the take a right because you got all these other people tapping on your shoulders. Take a right.
Or your will is, you think your will is better. Your will is, I don't want to go that way because that way I have to go down this other road. It's a windy road and I don't want to do that. I want to go the easy way. I want to go the easy way because I know the better way to go. Who the hell are you telling me? I know this road is better over here. I've been on that road. It's better. That one's all windy. I don't want that one. But God said take a right.
Yeah.
Through
Whatever
experience.
lines up with the Word of God,
God's
follow His
will,
direction.
not yours. Remember that. Let go sometimes because God gave you free will. Doesn't mean you get to always sit there and just make your choices on your own. You got to listen to Him. He's going to teach you the right. He's going to show you the right way. Because if you don't listen, I
You'll learn
guarantee
through
you're going to get off
Yeah.
that path.
Never leaves nor forsakes.
You're going to have to be coming back going, "Why did you do this to me?" I didn't do it to you, dude. You're the one that didn't listen.
Exactly.
Well, He only disciplines you if He loves you. So.
So, listen here. A lot. We get this, right? We understand this. We understand there's storms in our lives. We understand that there's things we've got to get through. We understand it. Do we understand why? Not necessarily. We can come up with a lot of reasons. We can guess. Only God knows why. Okay? Trust in God. Listen to God. Prepare yourself in the best way you know you can with that faith in God and your interpersonal relationships with your friends, your church, your family. Have the support group so that when it does happen, you're not alone. You don't get blown off your foundation. There are people around you to hold you and keep you together. Okay? So, this was an amazing roundtable. And I thank you all. I really think the Holy Spirit was here today. I'm burning up. So I know something's going on.
My lip is quivering at one
Listen.
point, like, oh my gosh.
Keep listening. Keep listening. And take that love yourself, and give it away. God bless you all. I'll see you next week at 3 p.m. 3 p.m. next week. Thank you guys.
That's me.
All right.